Most men grow up believing that the magnets that draw women in are money, good looks, or an easy sparkling charm. Few pause to ask whether something else might be moving the pieces. Something quieter, deeper, and almost invisible. A network of psychological tripwires that women themselves rarely notice. Just as men harbor buried impulses, women carry unspoken longings, reflexes, and vulnerabilities that guide their choices long before logic can catch up. The tragedy is that most men never learn to read those inner signals, let alone work with them. What follows is a long, unhurried exploration of 10 such hidden soft spots. Understand them, and every encounter with a woman changes shape forever. First, the quiet spell of emotional certainty. Women live through feeling. That much is obvious. What is less obvious is how sharply they can sense a man's emotional weather. Beneath every word, a woman is scanning. Is he steady when storms break? Does he crack when the world starts spinning? Deep inside, her loudest question is the simplest. If I risk my heart here, will he drop it the moment things get rough? And so her first great soft spot is a craving for emotional certainty. Recognize how differently men respond to crisis. One collapses, rants about traffic, curses his boss, then seeks her to mop up the spill. Another hears the same thunder, breathes once, speaks in a level voice, and quietly solves what can be solved. The second man does not merely appear strong, he feels like shelter, and that sensation works on a woman long before she can name it. So you stay unruffled when the restaurant loses the reservation, or when her own mood dives without warning. You let her vent without racing to match hysteria with hysteria. You offer calm answers, and you offer them first. Very soon, she begins to associate your presence with a lowering of inner noise. And once a woman ties you to a feeling of peace, she will look for that peace again and again, often without knowing why. Second, the pulse-raising charm of the unreachable. Scarcity crowns value everywhere. Diamonds gleam because the earth buries them. Limited sneakers sell out in seconds because gates slam shut behind the early buyers. Romance obeys the same cruel arithmetic. The more certain a woman feels of a man's attention, the faster her imagination wanders elsewhere. Something in her wants to stretch for what she is not entirely sure she can hold. That is why the always available suitor, the man who answers within 30 seconds, the man who rearranges a life at the ring of her phone, soon feels ordinary no matter how heroic his devotion. Meanwhile, the one who lives a life partly beyond her reach, who vanishes into work, gym, brothers, silence, sparks little currents of wonder that grow into surges of need. Mystery is not a game. It is oxygen. Leave a corner of yourself locked, and she will keep hunting for the key, fueling her own desire each time she rattles the door. Third, the subterranean thunder of voice and presence. Before a single word forms, a room already knows if a man belongs. Presence arrives first, voice follows close behind. Evolution, always thrifty, wired women to notice pitch. A deep, measured register hints at higher testosterone, broad shoulders, a capacity to keep danger outside the cave. Centuries later, the reflex still fires. But even a resonant voice wilts if the body around it slouches, if eyes flick away, if hands twitch. True presence is a silent declaration. I occupy this space by right. It lives in the way you breathe, the time you take between gestures, the steadiness with which you lock gaze and hold it, not as a threat, simply as proof you seldom doubt yourself. When a man like that begins to speak, words land heavier, as though shaped from denser metal. Women feel that weight as security, leadership, sometimes as danger. Yet, it is the kind of danger that fascinates rather than frightens. Fourth, the man who can vanish. Ask any woman to recount the moment she realized a relationship mattered, and somewhere in the story you will find the thread of loss. Perhaps he pulled back to focus on exams. Perhaps a misunderstanding kept him silent. Perhaps he simply said, gently, "If we keep going in circles." I'll step away and wish you well. In that instant, she felt something lurch inside her chest. Most men run the opposite path. When a woman turns cool, they grow frantic, pouring longer messages, grander promises, brighter flowers. Yet every additional proof of neediness cheapens the currency. A man who can tip his hat, walk into night air, and sleep peacefully is rarer than a flawless emerald. Rarity sharpens desire. This is not cruelty. It is self-honor. You do not threaten to leave. You simply know where your line sits, and if she crosses it, you wave once and keep walking. The echo of that step often rings louder than 1,000 pleadings. Fifth, a mission brighter than any romance. Ask 100 women what trait sets men apart and listen closely. Sooner or later, each voice circles the same campfire. Ambition, passion, a dream too large for one lifetime. A man burning toward a distant summit carries an energy that no cologne can bottle. His schedule is crowded with milestones. His eyes light when he speaks of prototypes, manuscripts, unbeaten trails. Women orbit that heat the way plants tilt toward the sun. Paradoxically, a man who makes her his sole project snuffs out the flame. She does not want to become the sun. She wants to warm her face beside one. So the business plan stays pinned to the wall. The marathon training block remains sacred. The night class in coding is not skipped because her Friday suddenly freed up. A purpose that outranks romance does not diminish the woman. It invites her to stand beside something towering, and almost every woman secretly hopes to see herself reflected in that giant glass. The sixth, the razor's edge of chosen vulnerability. Be vulnerable, modern advice chants, but it omits the fine print. Bleed too much, too soon, and she takes on the role of nurse or mother. Bleed not at all, and you become a statue she cannot warm to. The art is in selective unlocking. Picture your inner world as a vast house. Visitors who enter through the front door see a tasteful foyer, a living room, perhaps a hallway framed in family photos. They do not stumble into the basement workshop on day one. Later, as trust blooms, you open new rooms, stories of mistakes endured, small fears overcome. When you reveal such spaces by choice, from a stance of calm ownership, you grant her a privilege, not a burden, and privilege breeds attachment far faster than pity ever could. Seventh, the endless battery of subconscious tests. Women test. They do so often without knowing they are doing it. A teasing jab at your opinion, a late reply, a raised eyebrow when plans shift. Each moment is a sonar ping. She waits to hear what ricochets back. Fail by exploding, sulking, or chasing, and the ping returns a hollow echo. Instability. Pass by smiling, holding frame, or letting silence breathe, and the echo thuds solidly. Strength. Over time, these small reverberations carve a canyon of respect or a shallow ditch of contempt. Remember, she tests only where interest already lives. The exam itself is a backhanded compliment. Handle it like a veteran, and you write your own glowing report card. Eighth, laughing in the face of no. Rejection traumatizes the schoolboy in almost every grown man. Yet the moment a man laughs lightly at a no, shrugs and moves on, something electric changes in the observer's mind. Here stands someone who does not peg his value to someone else's verdict. It is not the rejection that wounds, it is the orphaned hope clinging to it. When you unhook hope, rejection becomes a passing comment on weather. Rain today? Ah, well. That composure is rarer than ruby, and rarity once again commands pursuit. Ninth, the sweet ache of mystery. Curiosity is gasoline for desire. When a woman believes she can predict tomorrow's text, next week's confession, next month's plea, the engine sputters and stops. But give her pauses she cannot timetable, stories half told, moods that flicker from deep focus to playful tease, and her mind races to fill the blank spaces. This is not a tactic. It is simply living fully enough that every hour cannot be live streamed. One day you study until midnight, another, you organize a hiking trip, a third, you vanish into writing music. The phone rests face down. When it finally lights, she scrolls up and down the chat, smiling at the appearance of your name, already planning a reply that hints but does not spill. 10th. Mastery over appetite. The last soft spot is paradoxical. Women cannot resist men who are not enslaved by women. Most males are tugged through life by appetite, scrolling the apps, firing emojis, scrambling for small approvals. The few who leash the hunger, who channel that energy into craft, into iron discipline, into high standards, those few glow. Say no to the easy invitation. Because dawn training looms. Decline the half-hearted fling because focus is expensive. When pleasure no longer pilots your choices, you radiate a gravity that bends orbits. Eventually, women notice a man who does not bow to impulse is a man strong enough to protect anything he does choose. So, attraction, in the end, is not a parlor trick. It is a long game of inner engineering. Steady emotion, cultivated rarity, deliberate presence, towering mission, measured softness, calm under scrutiny, laughter at refusal, breathable mystery, and disciplined hunger. Build these stones into your foundation, and a remarkable thing happens. Women do not merely want you in the ordinary, passing sense. Somewhere in the space between thought and instinct, they begin to feel they truly, deeply need you.